Watching.
So it's 8:02, and this is a meeting of the Public Works Committee to the RTM. Good evening.
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, well, we need to, it's where we up to, we're on the Cs for the minutes.
Yeah, who's after?
So let's see who's
CR.
next.
I was CR. Who's
There was
next?
somebody that
Yes.
was very similar to you that you were sparring with
Carrie,
last
did
week.
Carrie do it?
No, she's after me.
Yeah, she keeps skipping because it's her turn.
Yeah.
All right.
That sounds right.
So you did it.
Yeah, she wasn't at the
Oh,
last
she's
meeting
talking
either,
to me.
was she?
Oh, Siri's talking.
Was she not? No,
Carrie?
she wasn't.
So who's next then? That would be,
So she's got a couple of no-shows.
Frank, I was very glad for that template you gave me, because
It
I
helps,
did not
doesn't it?
realize that the minutes had to come in, what, a week after the meeting, like?
7
we were
days.
just
Generally
7 days
speaking,
after?
yeah,
Wow.
7 days now.
And
Well,
any
it
votes are
made it
supposed
so
to be
simple.
on
It
record
made it
in
so
48
simple.
hours.
That's
At
what
your
we
service,
learned.
please.
I mean, I'm sure you already knew, but I had a refresher course.
Colleen, you might be it.
Oh,
You
dang.
might be it. I'm not seeing anybody before you.
Then let me get my glasses.
Yeah. Do you have paper? You got a pen?
I have a paper already.
Okay, so while she's doing that.
Well, were you with RTM? You were, so you know how extensive the minutes
Yeah.
have to be
Yes.
these days.
Yeah.
And I could, what I
Not
can do
very.
is send you the
I
agenda, although the agenda's short, in Word, so you can cut and paste it in and kind of build on that.
Perfect.
I think
So
I have it in Word. I don't know why.
Yeah, you probably.
I was just looking at
I
it
can't remember
tonight.
if I
It seemed
sent it-
like it was
usually I
in
send that Word.
Okay.
GPT.
So the first
Yeah.
item is usually the approval of the minutes, and I realize,
Not the regular.
and I realize now that the minutes did not go out. They were,
Is that why I couldn't find them?
Wow.
I just thought it was me. Okay.
So we missed that 7 days.
no, they were submitted.
there's-
They were
And they are
submitted.
posted.
There is a record.
And they are available for
It
those
is.
eager
Oh.
beavers who want to go and pull them
They're
off
on the
the,
website.
Okay.
the web. But I did not realize that Krista doesn't send them out. And so I will forward them after this meeting.
Okay.
And then I will also forward the minutes from this meeting, and we'll take care of both next time. And they were very good minutes, too. And so thank you
I'm
very
sure they
much.
were
Thanks.
spectacular.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
The best
Top
minutes he's
tier.
ever
Best of
seen.
the best.
There was a meeting. Yes,
She
sir.
could very well have won the job permanently with those.
No.
All in favor? Is that a motion?
Second.
It's so relaxing when you don't have to take the minutes, you know? So
Yeah.
relaxing, so.
Yes.
No
Yes.
thanks.
You've done your time.
Yeah, it is
So it's
different.
gonna be difficult to approve the minutes, that's it?
We're gonna skip that item, because we're not prepared.
Okay.
So then we've got several items related to the focus groups. And I don't know if we want to start there. And we're going to, I made a list of the ones that I know I reached out to folks on. I don't know if there is an update on each or not. The last one we'll touch on is budget. I do have an update on budget. But Great Island, I know there was, actually was going to be an announcement at the Board of Selectmen meeting that got postponed. But then there was an announcement that came out in the press
I saw
on
the
Tuesday.
press release.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Why was the price reduced?
We were all just speculating
Due
what,
diligence.
yeah, we,
I guess my understanding informally
Uh-huh.
is that it was reduced for reasons of both environmental remediation
yeah, that was my guess.
and this is all hearsay, so I'm not.
Well, let's
on the
stick
inside
with
of
what we
anything.
know and not
So
hearsay.
my understanding is it relates to environmental remediation and perhaps the access rights to the main
Yeah, that's
road
what you're
are
saying.
not as convenient slash, there you go, perfect, as maybe we might have expected.
Or hoped,
Um, Right.
Okay.
So I think those.
So nothing about borrowing costs, perhaps. I mean,
I'm not aware of anything.
Okay.
I mean, I think in fact, in the group that I was with, there was, look, in this town, we know that there's enough municipal bond expertise to fund a medium-sized investment bank in that department already. So I'm sure that whatever we need to do from a financing point of view is going to get done in a very efficient and cost-effective way.
Sure.
So that's great.
Yep.
My understanding from some of the people who have expertise here, which I do not, is that the particular types of bonds that we might be looking to issue, in particular 10-year bonds, have actually not gone up dramatically in interest rate over the last year, even though short-term rates have increased
Right.
significantly.
fair point.
Again, I'm not an expert, so I.
Yeah, no.
Fair to say there'll
Make
be
your
more to
investing
come.
decisions elsewhere.
There'll be more to come on this as
Bonding
time progresses.
probably isn't an
There
issue
it
as
is.
to
Now,
how to
Mark,
lower the price.
while you were temporarily absent from this crew last year,
Nice to have you back.
when,
Didn't know where you're going with that.
well, last year, when we were led by the fearless Mr. Oben,
Yes.
and this item came up in a rush in May and June of '22, this group did consider and pass a resolution that forcefully advocated for an independent governance function for the Great Island acquisition. And I do not have the language of that at hand. I just want to encourage everyone to go back and review the language that we passed at that time. I think it was.
Sometime in,
It
I
would've
think the
been-
meeting
it
was
would've
in
been
May,
June.
and then it was presented in June at the RTM, something like that.
Well, yeah, so again, I just wanted, I mean,
Okay.
again, my personal issue on this transaction is the governance structure and who's gonna get to decide what happens on the island.
Yeah, I've heard from constituents that they have concerns
Right,
as
okay.
well.
Right.
And this was an initiative of the Public Works Committee standalone?
This was something that
with any
we
other committees?
considered as part of our
Yep.
group consideration.
Yeah, it was a
of Great
public
Island.
works statement.
Yes.
Statement, okay. We were just talking about statements and.
I think we ought to, if I may, I think we ought to read that statement and let the statement speak for itself rather than editorializing.
Yeah, I agree. I think
Yeah.
we were happy with how it stood at the time, so.
Okay.
But that would remain the latest thing that the Public Works Committee has said about Great Island.
Okay, very good. Next area is Sustainability and Environmental Commission, I
Yeah,
believe. There
that's
was
me
an
and
update.
Carrie.
Yep, any
Um,
update there?
Everyone knows the swap shop's closed until April 3rd or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have a new member that you mentioned that they appointed, which brought up a whole bunch of questions that I just realized I don't know how somebody gets on the sustainability and environmental. I don't know how that happens. Is it very similar to the, I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, there was a new gentleman appointed and they said he went through the process. And then they met yesterday. They had their meeting yesterday.
This is the environmental
Yeah.
or sustainability? Which,
It's the
It's
same
the same
thing,
one,
isn't
is it?
Yeah, it's the Advisory Committee
Commission
on
on
Sustainability.
Sustainability?
That,
Yeah.
Advisory Commission on
Okay.
Sustainability.
Yeah, they just
Not-
won the
not-
silver award
Yeah,
recently.
yep. But they just met yesterday virtually, and I haven't had a chance to review the video, so.
Okay, I think that's an advisory board to the
Yep.
selectmen, so
Yep.
they're appointed by the Board of Selectmen. I believe is how that works. How they get nominated or initiate at it, yeah, I'm not too
I
familiar.
think you can like self-nominate.
You can,
And then
or you can
you
go
have to
through
go
your
through a
affiliated
process.
party. If you're a Republican, if you're a Democrat,
Interesting.
or you can go directly
That's
to
true,
the Board of
most
Selectmen.
Huh, oh, no, I know. Anyway, that's all I got,
Okay,
unless you got more.
I do not.
Okay.
I do not. Anyone else?
I only have one question,
Mm.
and I should have asked it when Ed was here.
Mm.
Why is it closed for the month of March?
Ed said they are reorganizing and updating some stuff. They're doing a reorg, so.
And didn't they have an issue with the wall?
They did, yeah, so I don't know if that's part of it or not, but, yeah, he said they're refreshing, reorganizing.
In the work session, he made some reference to cleaning out old stuff.
Yeah, I think they're just kind of trying to reorganize it so
Reset.
it flows better and addresses some of the maybe issues that were
Yeah,
brought.
see, that's kind of what's in my mind is,
Yeah.
we met with them last year,
Yes.
and we gave them some feedback. I
And
don't
I
know
think
how
it's
well
based
that
on
was
that.
received or not, but
Yeah.
I know they had a follow-up meeting from that, and they had some discussions of their own.
Mhm.
Whether any of that's really been taken seriously and been implemented, I have no idea.
It sounds like it, and there were already some changes before they closed. With respect to the drop-off, they have like a drop-off table area now and things like that, so we'll see what the new changes
I was just gonna say,
bring
we're
and
gonna have to
April.
keep our eyes open
Yeah.
when they reopen and see how that goes.
Absolutely, I'm excited to see.
What were I could go back and look what the recommendations were, or the when you met with them last year? Was there any?
There were some constituents that had some complaints about
Okay.
safety issues and things of that nature. So we met with them and just had some recommendations on how things could maybe flow better.
I can send you.
One of them was that
We
the
can go over it with the people that
volunteers
grab it, Andy.
wear like a vest or something now. or a
Yeah, that was
hat.
something
And
I
a
was
hat.
particularly concerned about, is that, when you go in there,
Can't
you
tell
just didn't
who's a
know,
volunteer,
you didn't know who
who's a
was who,
random
and who was doing what.
Weirdo.
And, I said, you gotta have some sort of identity on these people if you're gonna have volunteers, so I know
Right.
when I pull in that, okay, you're a volunteer.
Who's authorized to
As
speak,
opposed to
perhaps.
you're
Pull
stuff
someone
out of your
who's
trunk
looking to
and
take
put it in their
things
trunk.
to put on eBay,
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which happened a lot. Like, I wouldn't even
I felt like
get
that was
stuff
the whole
on
business
school
model
tables.
there.
Yeah.
I was advocating for no volunteers. I don't think we need volunteers there. I think, but we don't have. to
As
go
in,
back
don't
and-
have it manned or
Doesn't need to be manned. Most of the.
Can't say I don't know.
A number of the swap shops in neighboring towns don't have volunteers.
What happens if it rains?
Yeah. Good day.
You drop
Stuff gets
stuff
wet.
off.
Yeah, but doesn't stuff just get destroyed? A lot of it's
There's a-
outside.
Well, there's also the under or misallocation of resources in that the building is just not used well. So
Can't find out.
So
there were a
stuff
number of
outside,
recommendations that went
yeah.
into that, so we don't have to trot over it.
That's fine.
Welcome.
Hello.
Okay.
Sewer Commission, I know there were a couple
Do
items.
we have like a check-in,
Gee,
yeah?
I'm doing it here, but
Oh,
He's checking in.
but just confirm I've got
Works
everything. If you want to
around.
pass it around if you
Sure,
want.
cool.
You just pass it right around if you want. Here's a
Great.
pen.
I'm
For
here.
those that didn't bring a pen. I think I got everybody.
On sewer, I attended the meeting yesterday, and there are no new projects for Public Works to review. Sewer is really currently adapting to the new high-density building that's going on in town, and it's got a lot of rejiggering of fees and for applicants who want to
Tie in? Or
well,
no? Yeah. Included?
have their projects considered, high-density projects. There's a project right now with, I believe, 22 units where it's just, we've been messing around with this for a year, fellas, and now you tell me we have to have a study of the study we made and pay for it? It was a pretty interesting meeting. Anyways, they're gonna have to review their methods and the fees and whatever that they take in, because the system is approaching capacity.
That's just funny where you were going with that. Is that what it is? The high-
He got there.
Is it a system-wide issue or these particular tie-ins where you have the high density?
Well,
Or
yeah, but
GDD?
definitely the tie-in is approaching of this particular new project is approaching.
That's the
it
one.
is-
That's
is
the one
at-
that's pushing it over, huh?
It's pushing it over.
In that
and
particular
almost-
area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And,
Sorry.
so.
What areas? Which tie-in?
Which one?
Yeah.
Well, that's,
Downtown?
I don't know
Downtown
the
area.
details of it
Yeah.
or whatever,
Downtown,
but.
right.
So I watched the meeting on
Yeah.
Did you?
on video last night.
Yeah.
So-
Anyways, the
It's the Northern
I
Heights
think-
Development area?
so as Public
I think it's
Works,
more
we're gonna
closer
have to be,
downtown.
Oh, the downtown.
we're gonna have to be cognizant of the fact that, one day, sewer commission's gonna say, we need to invest. We need to increase.
That commission funds itself.
That's right.
That's right.
Well,
Right.
it funds itself, but, really, is that?
So Vincent, yeah, I mean, that's the model for sewer in this town. is
Yeah,
that the
right.
sewer commission collects all the sewer fees, they collect all the connection fees, they collect any initiation fees,
Yeah.
and that those fees are what pay for the pipes in the ground and the service year by year.
Yeah.
So to the, if there was an extraordinary need to upgrade a pipe from a 4-inch to an 8-inch pipe,
Yeah.
in theory, that would be
Yeah.
a sewer commission responsibility that would be borne by the users of the sewer system
Uh-huh.
and people who pay who are on
Okay.
septic would not have that as part of their property tax.
Okay, because it's
I mean,
it's clear to me that it's like 100 million plus system value. The value of the system is 100 million plus, and
No, it's a big number, I'm not sure what.
well, whatever.
Yeah, it's a big.
You know, it's a big figure, and
But-
Well, I mean, the total sewer budget year by year is about $4 million.
well, no,
Most
but
of that
well,
is
I'm talking
operating.
about the value of the asset.
Yeah, you're talking about the asset, like if you had to replace it right now.
Yeah, right,
It would be
right.
a huge,
It'd be.
Yeah.
huge
right,
amount
right.
of money. But I mean, we've been building this out for the
Uh-huh.
last
Okay.
40, 50 years.
And from what I've observed, when there have been expansions, is the neighborhood or the community or the complex that's requesting the expansion gets us, I don't know if the term is assessed, but gets
Yeah.
assessed and it gets bonded.
Right.
And more or less the direct charge plus the usage ongoing once you're connected.
I get
I
a
don't know
lot.
how that formula works.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's what
So
I've observed.
very
in
roughly, the capital
expansions.
charge of putting the new pipes in the ground into a new neighborhood
Yeah.
is more or less borne by the people in the neighborhood that it would serve.
Right.
And then, once you are in, every gallon of sewage is more or less the same as any other gallon of sewage, and
But-
just if you
All
create a
determining.
gallon of sewage, you get a pro rata share of the cost, the operating cost.
Right. All determined by your water bill.
Correct. So there's plenty of things you could kind of quibble with in that process, but that's at least the model.
Yeah.
So, I
right,
mean,
yeah.
if-
No, but as a matter of public works, I'm just saying that
Mhm.
it's a valuable asset, and
It is.
and we may have to upgrade it in a way that public works will have to be involved.
So I guess to your point about capacity, I think every drop of sewage in this town ultimately goes under Holly Pond into the Stamford system.
Correct.
There's the interconnect that is
Under
near Cove
underwater-
Island Park over there.
Water line.
Correct. So to the extent that, I mean, if there is a limiting factor, it's the capacity of, I think it's actually 2 parallel pipes under Holly Pond. So I think, maybe as a first takeaway, we probably should ask Ed if there's a theoretical maximum amount of sewage that could go through those pipes at any one time,
Yeah.
or over the course of a season or a year, and how close are we to that theoretical ceiling? I assume that we actually have quite a lot of room to go there, but I don't know the answer to that.
Yep.
And then I think there's a more precise question to say, in any particular local area, are we reaching or approaching capacity?
Yeah.
If we're a local area, and that might necessitate, we gotta take the pipe out of the ground to, again, replace a 4-inch with a 6-inch main or something. I don't know.
Yeah, you're speaking more to the core distribution lines, not the tie-ins to a particular neighborhood, but, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, or those start to reach capacity, that's a bigger problem, probably.
Right, well, I mean, but when they put the pipe underneath Post Road, I assume that those are some of the first ones to go, I'm just assuming. And that, there wasn't, 3-story multifamily structures going up there, and there wasn't the redevelopment that's planned around the Corbin district, and there was,
Yeah.
So, if you look at the infrastructure in the ground right now, and what we know is approved to be built, once that's in place, are we at 30, 70, 95%
Right.
capacity?
That's a
And
fair
what would the
question.
I&I refurbishment of the system kind of mitigate? Because we're right
Correct.
now at approximately double
Yep.
where it should be
I think it's
because
about
of,
50% uplift from what we put in terms of water in versus what we send to Stamford.
right, so that's where the current investment cycle is about refurbishment
Right.
and reducing infiltration into
Right.
the sewer system.
Inflow and infiltration.
Yeah, I mean, if we could get rid of that I&I, it would clearly give us a
Yeah.
much longer runway. Right.
Right.
What is INI?
I was just saying, I was gonna
Because I
ask
was
that.
listening to that yesterday.
Inflow and
I-
infiltration.
How's that again?
Inflow and infiltration.
And what does infiltration mean in this context?
So inflow
Well-
and infiltration are the two sources of improper additions to waste volume in the sewer system.
Groundwater getting in these-
Rainwater
It
Like
could-
going.
somebody
That's
sump pump.
infiltration.
So it's either somebody's sump pump that's going in that
Into the
shouldn't be
system.
going in.
Yeah.
Or it's leaky joints that, my concern with the leaky joint in the sewer pipe is that things are getting out that shouldn't.
Yeah,
But-
yeah, no, either way.
For those,
But just as frequently.
But, yeah, exactly, the cost problem is that we
Yeah.
have water that gets in through leaky pipes.
we
Yeah.
pay to process.
We have.
And we send that to be processed, yeah.
And we
Which
we
is
pay
currently
for
being-
all of that.
We pay by the
Right.
gallon that goes to Stamford, we don't
Yeah.
pay by the gallon that goes down the toilet.
Right.
Interesting, okay.
All right.
I learned something
Well,
about
there's-
sewers today.
Yes, and I'll
Very,
I'll
very
add to that
sexy.
before we move on. In the working session,
Big
I
body of
believe we're
knowledge
in
on
year
sewers.
2 or 3 of a 5-year contract, and that contract with Stanford, they process, as Frank noted, all of our sewage, and that contract is up for renewal in, I think, 2 years-ish.
I think it's June of next year.
I think it's sooner.
Is it?
What
I think
other
it's-
choice
oh,
would
it's-
we
it's-
have?
I believe it's 2025.
At the
Yeah.
moment, we have no
Yeah,
other
two-
choice.
yeah, not-
June of
Yeah,
2025.
it's not happening in this budget
Yeah.
cycle,
Not a good
so
place to
I
be.
kind of 2 out, but it could be
Yeah.
1 year out.
He mentioned that at the recent
In the
meeting.
meeting, that's right.
And he said, believe it or not, it's coming up. And the commissioner's like, oh, okay. Because
So-
that's a lengthy, involved, long
Contorted process.
process of
And there's a monopoly
negotiations
supplying
and
the
auditing all
services.
kinds of information.
There's only one place to go with
One
it.
place. Yes.
So-
I mean,
So
at a very high
that's-
level, again, we could go into the details for a long time, and I don't think we want to do
No.
that. But at a very high level, we are about 15% of the volume that Stanford processes. The contract is a complicated set of caps and minimums and floors on volumes and fees and stuff. But I think our overall desire is to have the processing cost reflect what we send to Stanford, meaning we want to have like, if you have a floor on the fee, then we have no financial incentive to stop the I&I, right? Because even if our volume goes down by 1/3, we got rid of all of it, we would not
Still
have,
have to-
there would be no financial benefit. So I think
Financial.
our current focus on I&I is not just, there's a contract relationship with the
Right.
physical structure of the pipes to make sure we get less I&I, and the financial incentives to make sure that we get rewarded for that. Because otherwise, it's less compelling.
Right.
And why spend the money to go do it?
Well, yeah, yeah. I mean,
And there's
fundamentally.
other reasons, but,
Yeah, exactly. I
Yeah,
mean,
but the financial ones are the ones that
right.
get discussed at the budget.
get driven more. In this town.
So, very good. Coastal Waters is.
Well,
Vince, you again.
Coastal Waters, Bill, he canceled the last meeting, and the next one is until next month, and I believe Coastal is in a little bit of a flux here. They don't really
Okay.
know what they're about right now.
Right.
Is that Bill Cavers?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they have a meeting coming up April 17th, which is also the same night as the RTM meeting.
Yeah.
So theirs is at 7:30, RTM's at 8. So, but they have to vote in a new chair.
Is over there, okay.
Yeah, the chair is empty right now, and they have 2 new members, so.
What is the mission? Not to put anyone on the spot, but
The mission of Coastal Waters? Oh,
yes,
boy,
high
I
level,
know
high level.
that.
I'm not looking to put anyone on the spot, but just if you were going to explain it to me.
Darienne's Coastal Waters, I believe,
Yep.
is the second greatest asset that
Stewards
town
of
has.
the, okay, very good.
Huh?
He's monitoring the quality and the access.
Yep.
Yeah.
Vincent, you made a comment, though, at the
Yesterday at
the sewer commission meeting.
Yes, I did.
About the quality of the water.
Well, I got redirected at that. I got redirected.
You
I think
did.
I'm going to now go to health.
Well, let's you and me talk. I think we share certain concerns
Okay,
that
good,
maybe
good.
aren't fit for the
Yeah,
whole.
very good, yeah.
All right. Before I move on to the budget, which is really the next bullet, anything else in the focus groups that I didn't reach out on, or that one of us didn't already want to put on the agenda? That would come under the other category.
Well,
And stick
the only
with the
thing I
agenda.
was thinking about is Ed had said in the last meeting that 2 of these drainage studies, stormwater drainage studies were complete.
Yep.
And he was waiting to, coordinate with Monica on how this information would be disseminated to the public.
I remember
And he
that.
also mentioned that the 3rd study should be done somewhere between May and June. I'm very interested in that information, and I think the town is ready for it as well, so I'm not sure where to go
Okay.
with that.
Yep, I do recall we reached out to Ed, and I got the sense the release of the information was imminent, but you're right, it's gone quiet. Fair enough.
Yeah, I keep looking at the Board of Selectmen's agenda to see, discuss water drainage studies, and I just don't see it. So I know they've been very preoccupied with the Great Island, so that's certainly understandable. But I think for the most part, they're finished with the budget. They're over the hump, so to speak, with the Great Island, so.
Okay. Why don't I plan to reach out and see if we can get an update from
Can I just put one other thing there? When we spoke with Ed at the last meeting, we talked about sidewalks and the prioritization of what's going where. And I think he generally plays that close to the vest, right, as to what is on his list to do in sidewalks. And I think in this particular case, some of the sidewalk work was dependent on how much of the early paving he was able to do. Remember, the paving was deferred from last summer to this spring, and then there might be a second round of paving later this summer. Again, I would just ask for his sense of, has that perspective evolved?
Yep.
Can you be any more specific?
At the working session, Frank, I'm pretty sure he may not have gone through the laundry list.
Okay.
I don't know if anyone else watched it.
I did
or
not see it.
was there.
Yeah.
I did not jot it down,
Okay.
but
he didn't go kind of segment, he didn't go down at the segment level in terms
No.
of, because that part of the paving sidewalk interaction is in the region just south of the middle school. So
Yes.
where they're trying to complete
He
certain
did talk about
sections.
that. Right.
Exactly.
Right.
So that's where there's this interlock between paving and sidewalks. And so once paving's fully clear, which it should be now,
Yep.
then sidewalks should become very clear.
Thank you for reminding me
right
of
after
that. Yeah. It specifically, the March 1st meeting where Public Works is presented, if you go to about 50 minutes left in the 2-hour and 40-minute Vimeo.
Yeah. So I watched the entire sewer commission waiting for Vincent.
Yeah, he was in the line with very last.
I was gonna blow my brains out. It was like 12:30 in the morning this morning. I was like, oh, Vincent, when do you get to talk? It's not like that.
You can scan.
I tried.
I don't want to sell that presentation short on the sidewalks. It sounded like you remember seeing it. It was specific.
Okay.
I meant to go back and,
So it's 2.5 hour Vimeo?
no, but that's other
2 hours and
departments.
40 minutes, yeah.
Yeah.
It's that working session.
But if you
yeah,
put the
budget working
replay at
session.
1.5.
Okay, so that was a
you can
budget
get
working
through it.
session?
Oh, yeah, there's 1.5 or 2.
We were just talking about, is there a way to do 1.5?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That or 2.
We'll talk about that afterward.
This might be a challenge.
That's going to be
That'd
a
the biggest thing
valuable
to come
piece
out
of
of this
information
meeting.
right there. Yeah.
If we could all just talk at 1.5 times right here.
Yep.
Never mind the Donald Duck.
Yeah,
Before we
we'd
start.
be at like 2.25. That'd be awesome.
No thinking required.
So on the budget, if you'll indulge me, I'll do a brief recap of the items that were discussed. If anyone knows how to use OpenGov, you can go through the line items and you can track these. I can open the capital items when we get to those at the end.
And Mark, I'm distributing kind of
The snapshot.
the snapshot of kind of what the public's work, but it's a one-pager that just gives kind of all of the headline numbers.
Is there one
So-
more sheet? You have one more? Let's see. You want to do an overview of that before we launch into the line items?
It's,
Do that.
well, yeah, I'm sure that it was just consistent with everything you were gonna say, but it was basically, I just wanted to summarize.
Yeah, 'cause
like,
I'm
what's
not doing an
the,
overview, I'm doing the line
yeah.
items that were discussed, so
Yeah.
that's perfect, you'll do the overview.
Exactly. And so kind of overarching message around Public Works budget is steady as she goes. We have an increase in total expenses of like 3.2%. So the budget's going up for Public Works. We have an increase in revenues of 4.6%. So obviously in Public Works, revenues never cover costs. So, but we have fees on the revenue side, like dump fees and permit fees that have gone up this year, as we approved a couple of months ago, for the costs that we knew were going up as well. So we're really staying very much in lockstep with what you would expect. So at the major line items in terms of costs that are increasing are literally fuel is number one, and utilities for heating buildings and heating the public buildings as well as the garages, et cetera. So when that's your number one expense item that's really changing, then everything else is very small puts and takes. So that covers waste management, sewer fund, no significant changes. Or parking fund, increases are happening in terms of activity around parking. And so costs associated with parking, so that takes revenue up, and one of the major things that affords us and requires at the same time is parking ranger. So we've got one new FTE that is paid for out of parking funds, separate from kind of generalized general funds, that is coming in due to parking increase in demand, as well as downtown kind of development, which is going to cause kind of increased stress on parking there. Capital requests, again, you got to follow the 6-year capital request budget. We have about $12 million 6-year capital budget that goes out over, obviously over the next 6 years. This year's request on that is 3.73. So that's, as you look at average years, that is up primarily due to the Freightliner purchase, the new truck that we have there, because the initial budget request that came in from the town or from Public Works, from Ed, was included the sweeper, which is another $380,000. The Board of Selectmen said, let's put that on hold for another year. Let's limp through until we need it, or until we literally can't continue as we are.
Was that the main item that was put on hold?
Yeah.
It was really the only thing.
Yeah, the
But
sweeper.
But it was a pretty substantial chunk, $380,000 out of a already above average capital budget.
Is that the third year that one's been deferred or delayed? Do you guys know? I think it's been this.
I don't know. I've heard it spoken
At
of
least two.
before.
Yeah, at least two.
Yeah, last year. That's about it.
It's a tough year to be buying heavy equipment. We've all learned that.
Yeah.
Steel.
Fire engine, things like that. So that's the
That's
general
tremendous.
thing.
And so I'll go through some of the bullet items that were discussed at that Board of Selectmen meeting. So I'll try not to repeat. From sheet. Here we go. So steady as she goes. There's a slight reduction in a salary line related to a superintendent that resigned and being replaced. And so the replacement is at a lower step. So there's a slight reduction on the salary line there. There's a slight reduction in temporary seasonal staffing. There is no major change in salaries overall. They're in the I think final year of the union contract. You've got some built-in steps there, but nothing substantial. And so there's we'll see a change next year to reflect the next union contract. The paving that was deferred from 2022 will be done, or is planned to be done in April.
Yeah, there was an article in the Patch this week, I think,
Yeah,
today,
it's all,
listing all the streets.
Yep.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I get all that. I
Yeah.
wanna see that.
And Ed did go through what the streets were in the meeting. I didn't list them, so I'm glad that came out. There was the annual debate about radio repair. I don't understand why all the radios in every department seem to.
Need repair
Fluid one
or
time.
replacement.
I think one of the selectmen had a total of 200 and something thousand, wasn't there? 300,000 in repairs across all the departments. But it's always one of those Jeopardy questions. If you don't repair them, the cost to replace them seems like it's staggering. So I don't know the details to what.
Doesn't everyone carry a phone?
I recall from past meetings here, going way back, that many of the services use radio.
Yeah, radio's an immediate connection, I mean,
Yeah.
Right.
It's also interdepartmental.
Yep.
So that it gives you the opportunity, particularly in an emergency, where you can cross departments, and it's the standard.
It's, as opposed to relying on
That's fine.
cellular. So you touched on this, motor fuel, on fuels, motor fuels increasing. There's a big increase there. Ed feels that he locked in for the current season at $3.15. This is the motor fuels. He views that as good. I I guess that's good. I don't know.
That's
It seems
diesel?
pretty good, 315. Locked, I guess that's
diesel
locked.
price?
I think so.
Fuel, usually that's
Think
diesel.
it's
That's
diesel.
usually
It's
It's
diesel.
not just diesel.
Sounds like a good price based on.
Now, here's the one that caught my attention, and I did ask about it. Heating fuel, heating oil fuel, was up, was up 44%. And that begged the question, why? And the answer was sort of muddled. The answer was that units were up a large percentage, and that was compounded by a rate increase as well. And so I asked Ed to go back and go back and look at, give a little more color on the units. The units is the units of gas coming into here.
And that's what Kate, and in the presentation, they were very clear. We don't know.
We don't know
They-
why.
we don't know.
Don't know. It's like
So,
we're-
so what Ed did for me, he actually sent me today,
Clear.
is the unit usage for the building here, Town Hall, going back to 19. And it bumps around, but there was a dip last year. But if you look at certain, like the last month of the cycle, there's a drop. And what he said was, he said two things. One, a month was dropped and flipped into the subsequent year, so we swung a month there. And when you layer that on top of a rate increase at the beginning of the cycle and then another one mid-cycle, the 44% is really not near that much. It's a lot. There was rate increases for sure, but it's the flip-flop of a month of usage getting pulled out of last year's and into this year's that exaggerated it. So
13/11ths, right? If you have a month, so that would be 18% right there.
and
It's
then
just due to
the rest of its rate increases.
Okay.
And, usage does bounce around as I look at this year to year a little bit.
So Bob, how does that, the month is pulled because there's more consumption or
I
during
think it's
that
just a
month?
clerical.
I think it's just a-
Clerical error.
Pulled it out of this year because the bill came, I don't know.
Oh.
But one was pulled out.
So this is retrospective, not.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, so it just caught my eye, 44%. And then when the answer was, well, usage is up. And then someone said, well, is the building less efficient? And I was just sitting here going, well, it's been here 100 years or however long. It's
I would
That
not
pretty
have
much is
batted
what it
an
is.
eye at 44%.
I wouldn't either.
Given how much it's gone
Oh
up
my
in
gosh,
my house.
In
Yeah,
my house
it's
too,
gone
yeah.
up.
It's about
Yeah.
44%.
Yep.
There's also, they don't divvy up between units and like distribution cost, right?
Well, he has that, but he didn't, for this purpose, he didn't do that.
Because sometimes, in working in a couple of other commercial buildings, the distribution cost has gone up
Oh.
substantially, even though the unit cost and units used
Are
is
flatter going
are
down.
flatter
Yeah.
on a relative basis, so
I thought that was just for electric.
they hide it a lot of different
Yeah.
ways.
So long-term, actually, I do track this. Long-term, the distribution charge has gone up very steadily and significantly over the past
Yeah.
7, 8 years, 9 years. The big increase we had this year was the generation,
Yeah.
different category. That was the spike, and it was like 40-something% on just that portion of the bill, which is like half the bill-ish.
Yeah.
So, anyway, we can all chat about that. It's not going to change it. Those who've been on this committee a while know that the tire line fluctuates based on one item, and that's when the loader needs new tires. And so we're on that point in the cycle. I think it's actually a drop this year.
The loader, what's the loader?
The loader's the big
The front end loader?
front end loader with the big giant wheels.
And we have one and
And
when
it swings the budget a multiple. And I don't know if it's a 3 or 4 year cycle it's on, but I've seen it go up and then you see the drop. And either way,
Okay.
the movement, I think it's a drop.
In the
this
tire
year.
line
In
itself.
the tire line, in the tire line.
Maybe we should just buy one tire a year.
Smooth it out.
Can't do that.
The tire rotation gets all screwed
The
up.
loader at the recycling center, the big one?
Yeah, the-
Yeah, big
you
loader.
can't
The
miss
one
it.
that's really fun to watch.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And
Other
tires are-
items
tires are that
to
much.
touch on is, where are we? Well, we're in the last year of, I wrote down we're in the last year of our solid waste contract. Does that ring a bell with this team?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Ed's assuming an increase It's still in negotiation, so he wouldn't put a number on it. But he said the waste has gone from 99 to 118 a ton. And so he put an increase in there, but it's not reflective of what the new contract's going to be, because it's still in negotiation, and they're in the quiet period on that.
That's why we all need to bring our food scraps to the dump.
Waste is
Food
hauled out of
scraps.
state, all of it all hauled out of state.
Compost.
I think it all goes up to, it's still being
Bridgeport.
incinerated, right?
Yeah.
There was a very detailed presentation on where it all goes. Some of it goes to Bridgeport, some of it gets hauled off to other places.
Yeah, well, different landscape stuff goes to different areas, right?
Very complex.
All right, so we talked about the fuel, parking operations, what's going on there. They're starting to see more revenues. I didn't realize this, 72% of the parking operation is state and 28% goes to the town on the revenue side.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that was news to me.
Is that the downtown parking plus the train station?
Those are the
parking?
ones-
That's-
It's the daily
that's it?
parking and the monthlies and.
Is that
Well, it's the-
72%
or
of
train
the
station.
revenue?
The train station.
Is
I
that
mean,
the
the
revenue
state-
distribution?
I think the
Or is that
state
the
owns that
proportion
land,
of
right?
land
I assume so.
ownership? So
I don't know. I
my
wrote down-
understanding was that it was land ownership, that 70% of the managed parking spots
Yeah,
were actually, the land underneath them is actually owned by the state, not by the town.
That makes sense.
okay.
That's my
Okay, that could be.
understanding.
We get all the revenue from, and we have all of the maintenance burden for taking care of that space on state property. So the state has basically given us use of it.
Okay. How does that impact the budget, though?
Not at all. It doesn't, because we get it's just it's administrative in terms of, so
Oh,
it
okay.
shouldn't matter to the budget. That 72% is just, we get all the revenue from it anyway.
It was brought up in the context of the budget discussion, and just anecdotal, I guess.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's how I interpreted it. That's about 50% likely of being correct.
Get my coin out.
Exactly.
Appreciate it.
No, that sounds-
So
that
when you're
sounds-
talking about parking, you're really just talking about the 2 train stations, right? We're not talking about any of the parking in town.
I was talking, I believe,
It's
about.
downtown parking.
All
It's
parking.
all-
of it.
All downtown parking, all town-owned lots.
Curbside parking.
Right, like behind.
But the
CVS.
revenues come in
Where do
from
we pay for
the train
parking
station.
downtown?
Just-
You
there's-
don't, but you
I
get
don't think
tickets.
there's
I've
no-
never seen a meter anywhere.
There's
I don't think there's any other.
I'm
Yeah.
just thinking about the ticket
Yeah.
revenue.
So what, well, the reason that they brought up the train stations is the revenues are ticking up. The daily
Right.
parking is ticking
Mhm,
up.
mhm.
They didn't see much of a decline in the permit sales, if any, during COVID, so they're not
People
seeing an
don't wanna
uptick, but they are
lose
seeing
their
a dramatic
spot.
uptick. I thought I had the percentage here, and they expect it, and so you'll see a line item there. I thought I wrote down, if I'm recalling off the top of my head, $240,000 increase, which is why they want to increase the enforcement, which is the ranger you
The
touched
ranger.
on,
Yeah.
which is a ranger position that was, they're replacing one that was, I guess, suspended or
We
put on
had,
hold.
we had pre-COVID,
Yeah.
Right.
and so
We let one go as
Yep, here it is, I just
COVID.
found it, I knew I had it. So, yeah, so there's a $54,000 increase to bring a parking ranger back in.
Asking for a friend.
And that's partially offset, more than partially offset, by a $95,000 increase in parking revenues.
Revenue.
And projected to be more.
If we get to collect ticket.
Yep.
Ticket revenue.
And then, I think we're, on the parking capital side, there's a couple of items that were noted. Resurfacing of the Tokenique Road parking, 52,000. That's the pull-in parking across from Sono Bakery.
Yeah, the barber shop and Ernie's.
Ernie's.
Not that I've ever been there, but.
Nope, heard of it. So, yeah, I'd forgotten that those were.
Everybody's been there.
And then there's a line item for the platform shelters at Darien Railroad Station. I seem to have remembered that from a prior budget, and sure enough, it was from a prior budget. It was budgeted at 100,000, it's coming in at 175, so this is topping up the shortfall.
So this is installing or repairing?
Installing.
This is the
So
new work
this
that's
is
going in.
going down the platform past the part that's covered currently?
I didn't get into the specifics.
They're actually gonna redo
The
the
platform,
platforms
Entire
in
platform.
Darien.
right.
Okay.
And this will be
Even though
tied
they
in with
just
that
redid the
project.
platforms. They're
I
gonna
feel like-
redo them again and
Right.
put in heated
Yeah,
Yeah.
to get rid of the
yeah,
salt.
plus the surface is gonna be
The
totally
surface could
different.
Oh, okay.
So,
They do
so
use a lot
the
of
maintenance
salt.
goes down,
Okay.
the concrete will last longer, but then while they're doing all of that, they're gonna put in shelters.
Mhm.
Okay.
Which is what this was, this line item is just the
Predominantly, I
shelters.
think on the eastbound side. Or were they doing the westbound side too?
No, I think they're gonna do both sides. I think I don't think there'll be as many on the side that goes out to New Haven. Okay.
It's mostly from the New York bound side.
Yeah,
Maybe I've heard.
but my recollection was that the state said, we'll install them if you buy them,
Yeah, I think that's right, yeah.
That sounds familiar.
Okay, so it's sort of a partnership.
so to speak.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
If there is such a
but
thing with the
my
state.
question was gonna be, why is the town paying for this? But that's why.
Because the state is
Okay.
mandating it, and
Okay.
then we ask for the shelters. They said,
Right.
fine, you pay the shelters, we'll put them in.
Yep.
And the price is up, I assume, because of steel and concrete and all
And
these.
Supply
Because of
chain
the-
and
because
everything else you can think
Supply
of.
chain is
Yeah.
always a good answer.
Yeah, that's a standard now.
So then related to that, which will ring true with this group, is the Norwood Heights Drainage Project. That's the caverns that are gonna go under the parking lot are back on. That gets covered, that is covered by the capital fund from the railroad parking revenues. But that is.
And that's going under the parking lot that is abutting the railroad tracks near Norotan Heights.
Yes.
Right? This is separate and distinct from the detention that's underground underneath the new federal project, right?
Separate, yep.
Incremental.
Okay, so now that brings us to, I'll pause there if anyone has any questions on operating before I move to the budget item, the capital items. We've talked about them just a little bit.
Yeah.
The sweeper was my first item, and it's out. That was a $380,000. The background there is, I guess 20-some odd thousand were put into, $26,000 of repairs were put into it last year. It keeps needing repairs. The mechanic at the garage can maintain most of it. There's some hydraulics that he apparently is not able to maintain. But Ed made it pretty clear at the meeting that if he had to go another year, he could. And I happen to agree with that decision. It's a very bad time to buy heavy equipment, or try to buy. Not even sure that they could get one in short order if they placed the order now. Other items he mentioned, the town hall gym upgrades. You all know that's a phase 4, I think 4-year, although it feels like it's taken way more than that. This is the final installment,
Mhm.
$75,000. Interesting tidbit I learned in the discussion of the heating and the usage. The gym is not heated. It's not that there's not heat. There's heat there. They just don't turn it on. I just found that interesting. Yes,
You
right?
don't need to, I guess?
That's what he said. Ed said that in most of the year, the roof heats it.
Where is the gym?
I was guessing the people heat it.
Yeah.
It's where they
Right, connect the gym to
Down
the,
in that corner. Down on the
Where you
corner.
vote in the building.
I don't know here, but
yeah,
okay.
if you vote in this
Okay.
district, but.
Never been in it. All right.
Yeah.
Guess I gotta wear a sweater if I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
I've noticed
I've
it
never-
chilly, but I've never noticed it.
Yeah,
Never went to
so
junior
7 a.m.
high.
Saturday basketball game. Boy,
Nah, that's right, this was.
Yeah.
That's right, yeah.
No problem.
At the high
I
school,
recall-
was it the
I
high
recall.
school at one point?
No, this is a junior high school.
Mather.
Mather.
Okay, so that's that. The tree replacement program is an ongoing program, no change there, but it is continuing. On the townwide drainage, there were 3 specific projects noted or cited. I don't know if anyone here, I did not jot them down, but all 3 are not new. All 3 have an issue that's being remediated, sorry. 2 have blockages is what I wrote down, and 1 has a section of pipe that is missing and needs to be replaced. So the three that are being pursued are remediation, is what I'd call them. I don't know, anyone know more about those?
Wasn't there one of the issues was the one that, the pipe that goes across the guy's yard and the tree roots? It was a flooding issue, but related to drainage. Didn't we talk about this last meeting or
We
2 meetings
did.
ago?
We did.
But that, I don't know if that's one of those. Ed was aware of it and I think was.
Was that that was?
Property owner had asked us to sort of make sure it, you know.
That one, yeah, I got that address. That one.
It's
I could ask Ed. if that's-
Hanson or
I thought it was
Middlesex Road, I
Hanson.
think.
Do you have the email?
Not with me, well.
Yeah, well.
I have it on my phone.
Yeah. Let me see, I may have it. There was one specifically, and I thought it was the same one.
That's not the Hanson Bridge?
Not the bridge is
No,
separate.
this
Yeah.
is
This is a
Middlesex
drainage.
Road.
Oh, it's Middlesex Road.
Yeah. He had kind of an interim solution, but he had gotten Public Works to.
All right, so let me
commit to
ask
doing
Ed,
it right.
is one of these three that one? What do you have, what's the address?
I'm getting to it.
Yeah,
Got a
no
lot of
worries.
work.
I'm gonna go on, I can
emails.
come back?
Yeah.
I don't want to put you under any pressure. Here's one that made folks sit up. Mather Center HVAC upgrade. A chiller, and there were a couple other parts that need to be replaced. This is not components that were redone when the Mather Center was
Yeah.
redone
Was built.
a number of years ago. Simply worn out parts.
And the price tag?
On that
100.
one, you got that?
100,000?
100,000. I didn't write that one down.
It's a drop in the bucket compared to the overall shuffle.
You can write me the check.
Mark, 397 Middlesex Road,
397.
corner of Hanson.
Okay. So I'll ask,
Middlesex, corner, Hanson.
where is that? Where is
Huh.
that? Okay, so I'll shoot him a note, just see if that.
Yeah, he said he was gonna work that in as part of the project with the Hanson Road Bridge as well, as I recall. He made
Right, would be a
comment about
different
that.
answer than one of the three that's in the budget as related to ongoing
It's
drainage.
pretty far away from
projects.
the bridge.
Oh,
It
yeah.
is, yeah, well, hey, you know, I don't know how he finagles his budgets and his financing,
Right.
but
So that's the question for that.
I guess as long as the equipment's there, you might as well just move it.
small gym room.
Small gym roof is leaking. 90,000 to replace that. I didn't realize there was a small roof, small gym. That must be that room.
I didn't know there was a small gym.
That is, oh, I thought it was that.
There's a gym and a small gym?
I don't know. I
Versus
mean,
Middlesex?
whoever listed it went out of their way to type small gym.
Yeah, and I wrote small gym.
Yeah, I think if you go through the main
There's-
gym
I think there is another
there's a
gym,
little.
yeah, a play area.
Another, okay.
Yeah, I think there is.
I-
I don't recall.
I wouldn't call it a gym, I think it's an arts center,
It's
right?
just- I think
I
there's a
recall a
storage
big
room.
gym, but I don't-
Well, there's a storage room off of it, but
Could've
I think
changed.
that
Yeah,
small
he
gym.
mentioned that there was some
has
other
all
room
glass around. I
behind the
think they use it
gym or
for art,
something
like
like
an art
that.
center, or an art studio or
Okay.
something like that, but I think it's technically a
So it was
gym.
like I guess they call it a small gym.
So there was a lot of talk about how much money was saved by deferring the paving.
Mm.
If rates stay where they are now, I didn't jot down the specifics, but the asphalt is down significantly, liquid asphalt. The prices came down. If they hold where they are now,
It was like a $30,000 savings or
Yep.
40,000.
But it's not a savings, it's not a cash savings at all, it just extends the amount of.
Exactly.
Of space that you can pave.
oh, that's right.
It's a
They would've
reduction of
paid the same
cost.
amount,
It's
just
a reduction of
30%
cost, which allows you to do more.
Which allows you to do more because
more,
yeah.
you can
The
get more
budgeted
for the
capital.
same.
And that's how the
Stays
paving is done
fine.
every year. You budget the amount, and then you go as far as the amount will go at the time you go
Got
and
it.
contract. So, and then we talked about the capital items, and the main one that drew a lot of attention besides the sweeper, which is out, is the Freightliner truck.
Mhm.
That's 5 of 7 trucks have already been replaced, because the question was, how many more of these trucks are going to have to be replaced?
All of them.
Well, eventually, all of
Yeah,
them.
I mean, it's on a rotating
It's a
cycle.
cycle.
It is, it is. But I jotted down here that this Freightliner truck is high at $75,000. That's very high relative to what the others have cost in the past. It's a reflection of buying heavy capital equipment at this time.
In the market.
In the market. And I'm in that business. I see it brutal.
But on this schedule goes out to 28, 29. This is listed as the last one
Yep.
for quite some time.
Yeah, I wanna
Just
upgrade
glance at how long these, because I think they've all been replaced.
Yeah, this is the last
Well, and-
replacement of the old fleet,
And the
okay?
theory is, or the operating theory has been that since we've redone the town garage, the general life should be extended. So comparing the schedule from, say, 10 years ago to the schedule going forward 10 years, we should be getting another, I don't remember what the exact number, but something like a year to 2 years
Longer.
of
Longer
longer life because
lifespan.
the chassis and, everything isn't rusting out.
So
because they can-
if I do
They
some
can
rough math in
wash
my
it.
head, that means we're replacing one every 2 to 3 years.
Yes.
We space them evenly.
If we don't expand the fleet.
This schedule doesn't reflect that, though.
Yeah, it does, actually, I mean, what I saw is that we've got 200,000 or so dollar capital expenses going out for the next several years. We got a loader in 26, 25, 26. We have a large dump truck in 24, 25. So.
I see the loader, I see the Ford F-550
Yep.
in the following year, and then I see a tractor mower in the following year. But in terms of the Freightliner truck,
Yeah.
You're looking forward or back? Oh,
forward,
forward. There should only be one more. That was his exact point. The question is, when were they, I don't remember.
the only,
What's the useful
prior
life on these?
Right, what that cycle, what that replacement.
Yeah, estimated useful
cycle
life is 15 if they're able to eke out a couple more, but it says here 15.
Yeah.
the only thing I do see in the way of a truck is a large dump truck in the fiscal year 2028, 29.
That's this.
Ford.
That's what these are, right?
No, we're talking about a Freightliner, which is a
Oh.
different line item.
Yeah, okay.
And that is listed at $330,000 again, but that's way out in 2028, 29.
Yeah. That's one of the big salt trucks.
Yeah. How many of those do we have? Anybody know?
I have no idea. I don't know what the
I
makeup
want
of
to
the
start
fleet
replacing
is.
those at 300. So that's all I had as far as an update on budget. I know the Board of Selectmen submitted that to the Board of Finance. Jack, how are you?
I am.
Board of Finance, Board of Selectmen submitted their budget, last night before, to Board of Finance.
Mhm, mhm.
So I haven't tracked that.
I watched it. It was brief and uninteresting.
Yes.
Yeah, it
That's
was
kind of budget.
kind of uneventful. The only other thing that I think we are obligated to look at as a committee is any capital improvements for the sewer. Okay, we are obligated to vote on that. And there is a schedule, I mean, for this year, $152,600 for a number of different things. Pump replacement, equipment replacement, sewer designated for capital equipment. I'm not sure exactly what that
The
is.
pump's the big item, I bet.
Yeah, pumps are a real thing. This
Which
particular
station does it
pump-
say? I'd be curious. What would we find?
No, I don't have
Okay, I'll find out.
specifics. Chemical root control for 17,600. Collection system rehab for 75,000. Total 152,600. And that's separate from any of the bonding for all of the work that's going
Capital
on.
sewer, okay. I'm curious about that pump, because I know we've replaced all the pumps. I think dates way back, Frank, to when.
I know they're very
Well,
concerned.
that goes back 8, 9 years at this point when we were having issues with
Stuff.
grease bergs and unflushable flushables.
Right,
Heard about
the
it.
unflushable flushables.
I think they've had 3 years where they would replace
Yeah,
and
those
repair for
flushables are
those
bad.
pumps each year.
What's the flushable?
Because we had people, A, it's
The
a
wipes.
maintenance cost, and B, it's
Yeah.
dangerous to go climb down in the hole and
So,
take away the fat bergs.
yep.
I know they're very concerned about the big pump down on the end of Nearwater Lane, right adjacent to the Wheat Beach, because when that last big rainstorm came down, but it's now over 2 years ago, but anyway, that water rose up to just a foot shy of flooding that whole
Yes.
location. And so I know Ed's been experimenting with some things to temporarily build that up to give them more
Yeah.
clearance, if you will, in the future. But eventually, that's gonna have to be dealt with on a more permanent basis.
Did you see, did anyone here see the contraption that they put from what it says, it worked well.
Yeah.
It looks pretty simple. It's like a metal plate, I think. It goes, I don't know how many doors the thing has.
I think it's just one, but I've never really been there to
Simple
see it,
solution.
you know, myself.
Yeah.
What's it do?
All it does, it's like a plate that goes across the doorway.
Yeah.
I don't know if it goes up 2
And
feet
he's
or what it
buffeted it,
goes.
I think, with some bags of some sort.
Right, and it keeps the water out pretty well.
So this thing's above ground?
No, it's a ground level,
It's at
but you don't
ground.
want the thing to get inundated,
Sure.
because then the pumps will short, presumably short out.
Yeah, they're worried about the electrical
Yeah, with salt water.
shorting out. Once that happens, the pump is inoperable.
And you don't want that
And what
pump
happens
stopping.
then? Yeah.
It's funny, in
At that moment.
the New York Times this morning, there was an article on California. And they're dealing with using inflatable bags going around certain areas to, at the last moment, inflate the bag and hold the water back.
Interesting.
It's an interesting solution.
Inflating it with water, right?
No, inflate with air.
Because I've seen water.
Interesting.
So,
I think
Thank-
it's
thank you for
air.
that,
I think
Bob.
it's air.
capital on the sewer.
Sewers, yeah.
Yep. So I've got 3 items to go back to Ed on, so I'll have those for next time. And with that, that's all we had for this evening.
Yeah.
At 9:04, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Thank you very much, everybody, for your
Second.
participation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So there's a certain basketball game I'm looking to go watch.